Well, hello and welcome, football fans, to the Squirtle Pater Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maples Nixon Diesel Horse Law Firm. I am your host, Andy Campbell, and as always, I'm joined today by an expert panel of high school football experts in the state of Oklahoma. First of all, we have our voices of Squirtle, Tom Nelson and Mark Rogers. They bring you the Squirtle games of the week throughout the football season. Tom and Adam Diesel Horse will be in Perry to call the Maroons game against Tonkawa on Friday night. Mark has the night off. I don't know, Mark, are you going to hang with Coach Switzer and Kel Gundy, or what are the plans for your week off here?
Yes, I will be playing golf in the HBC Invitational on Friday, and so I'm going to have to miss you guys on this Friday, but be back and ready to go next Friday.
Good excuse there. Welcome back to the show, Lane Jones. Lane is a former coach and athletic director, man of many talents, and now is the owner-operator of multiple HTO stores around the metro area and the state of Oklahoma. Lane, tell us where all you have HTO stores up and running.
Well, I can't follow the K County legend right there. I mean, I feel like a failure now. He gets to play golf, and Coach Switzer, Coach Gundy, that's awesome. We've got several stores open. We have our Village location open. It's been open for almost 3 years now. Hefner and May. We've got a location in Stillwater open, location in Bartlesville. We've got a mobile truck. We have a concession stand in OU, and we have a concession stand at Oklahoma State as well. And we're getting ready to break ground on our next store at 178th and May in Edmond, Northwest Oklahoma City. So cross our fingers and see where it goes.
And Lane, I've got to say, my daughter calls me on Saturday afternoon from the bathroom at Owen Field in OU and says, "I just heard you on the radio." Because I'm like I do the HTO ads, the HTO ads on the Sooner Network. So she's going, "I just heard you in the bathroom." It was kind of creepy, but
well, great to have Lane on. He's also the expert of Texas barbecue. So hopefully we get some good food picks tonight. Looking forward to Lane's commentary there. And also tonight we are honored to have on the show Hunter Shepard. Hunter is from Porham, Oklahoma, but is well known to be an Oklahoma high school sports guru. We see him all around the football fields on Friday nights in the basketball tournament, state basketball tournament in the state. So Hunter, welcome. Look forward to hearing from you on the show. And I know we'll get some great commentary. And I know you put out a lot of content for Oklahoma high school sports, and thanks for all that you do for Oklahoma.
Hey, no problem. It's an honor to be on here with you guys.
Our final guest is always Jacob Diesel Horse, one of the partners of the law firms of Maples Nixon Diesel Horse Law Firm, and a huge supporter of Oklahoma sports and the Squirrel Network schools. Guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. Our first matchup is a 4A versus 5A as the Weatherford Eagles take the drive to El Reno to take on the Indians. Both teams are 1-1 on the season. El Reno dropped a close 14-6 game to Piedmont last week, while Weatherford had a big 37-17 win over Kingfisher. Mark Rogers, we'll start with you. Kick us off.
Yeah, I think Weatherford is they started off a little slow, even though they got a win against Kingfisher last week. El Reno had the lead against Piedmont. They did a good job of shutting that offense down. I think that this one is going to go the way of El Reno. I like the Indians in this game. I think it'll be pretty close. I think both teams are talented, but I like El Reno.
Tom Nelson.
El Reno scored 64 on 0 week against Chickasha, but they were held to just 6 in their loss to Piedmont. Malachi Nicholson got off to a great start running the football the other night. In the first quarter, he had an 81-yard touchdown run called back on a holding penalty. Then he capped their scoring drive with a 28-yard touchdown run. El Reno wouldn't score again as Piedmont's defense put the lockdown on El Reno. But El Reno's defense gave Piedmont lots of problems as well, and I think that's going to be the difference in this game. Weatherford is completing just 41% of their passes. They've averaged just 95 rushing yards in their first 2 games. El Reno leads this series 9-5. Weatherford's won the last 3 since 2020, but I think Malachi Nicholson has a big night. Weatherford's not going to score more than a couple of touchdowns. El Reno's going to get more than that, and they'll get the win.
Lane Jones. You're on mute, Lane.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, I got to go with Tom. I'm gonna follow him and pick El Reno. I know what they played, and I think they're gonna be ready to go. And they're always playing physical football. I know Weatherford. They always get up for when they play somebody in a class above them. But I'll go with the Indians in this one. And my food pick, obviously can't go wrong with Johnny's or Sid's in El Reno. I miss Taco Mayo for some reason in El Reno. It's one of my favorite stops rolling through there. But I'm going to roll and say I'm stopping at Cholinos on the way to the game.
Okay, I got a question for you though. Johnny's or Sid's? What's your pick?
Yes, that's a tough one. It really is. I had this debate with somebody with John Hardaway not too long ago. I like both, but I'll probably lean towards Sid's.
Hardaway's a salad guy now, so Hardaway's a salad guy now. I'm not sure if he has a pick between hamburgers. Hunter Shepard, let's go to you. Weatherford at El Reno.
Okay, so as you guys said, El Reno is going to look to use their run game and physicality to their advantage. I think they're going to want to get the ball in the Malachi Nelson's hands as much as possible. If you're Weatherford in the passing game, I think you got to look to get the ball to C.J. Nixon. Of course, we know how good an athlete he is, but I'm with you guys. I think El Reno will take this one.
Jacob Esource.
Yeah, so when I applied my formula to this game, it actually came out as a almost exact pick 'em. If it was a neutral site game, El Reno is going to get the advantage in the line. I have them a 6-point favorite playing at home. Last week, Piedmont and El Reno played in a very low scoring game, which was the exact opposite of what I predicted. But it was actually the passing game of Piedmont that was the difference in that game. Piedmont got a couple big pass play scores to win that game. So unfortunately, Weatherford hasn't shown the ability to really throw the ball downfield. I agree with what Tom said about Weatherford's offense, and I think it doesn't bode well for them going on the road to El Reno. I got El Reno winning 27-17.
All right, guys, that is our first matchup. And without any further ado, I have to mention we have a Squirtle.tv Squirtle School coming up Thursday, September 7th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a lunch and learn at the Autry Technology Center in Enid. So Squirtle will be on hand to answer questions about all things broadcasting and setup, from streaming and incorporating students into your Squirtle broadcast, and how to add advanced features, that sort of thing. I know Adam has mentioned there's already been over 100 RSVPs for that. It's all over the Squirtle Facebook page. So if you're interested, check out Squirtle.tv, the Squirtle Facebook page, and get signed up for the Squirtle.tv first ever Squirtle School. All right, pick'em game number 2. We have a 2A versus 3A matchup in Chandler this Friday as the Lions host the Bristow Pirates. Chandler is 1-0 after a good 26-6 win over Stroud last week. Bristow 0-1, losing 34-21 a week ago. Tom Nelson, let's start with you. What to watch for in this game, Bristow at Chandler?
I believe we all picked Chandler last week to beat Stroud, and they were impressive going on the road, winning that game 26-6. With Casman Hill gone, the offensive spotlight really shines on quarterback Alec Jackson. He threw for 175 yards, had a couple of touchdowns through the air, rushed for 17 times for 118 yards last week. Bristow hung with last year's 4A runner-up Cushing last week. They lost the game 34-21. Chandler's won 2 of the last 3 years. I think they're going to make it 3 wins in 4 years, and I think the Lions are going to roar by at least a couple of touchdowns or so.
Mark Rogers.
Wow, this is a tough one. I think this game, I had it being a little closer than Tom. It was close last year. It was a really good game. Chandler had a good win over Stroud last week. Bristow had a lead on Cushing. I think they're going to get some players back that didn't play in the game last week. So this is a rivalry that's been played for a long time. Those schools on Highway 66 kind of know each other a little bit. And so I think that was a sign from above. Someone's dog was barking, and so I think I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to go with Bristow here to knock off Chandler.
Wayne Jones.
Well, this is a tough one. I can't take the underdog in this one. It's going to sound like we're rolling with Tom Nelson here, but I'm going to go with the Lions in this one. They're 1-0. Bristow's 0-1, but I think Chandler is going to win this football game. The more important part is where you're going to eat before and where you're going to eat afterwards. Before, I think you got to roll down the Wellston and run into Butcher's, see David Bosca. Here's the thing. I'm a brisket guy, but I'm going to Butcher's for their ribs and a Twinkie. And then after the game, I'm going to go to Taco Mayo because there's a Taco Mayo that is actually in Chandler. So it's a win-win.
That is absolute disrespect for the Ken's Pizza in Chandler, one of the very few still remaining in the state. I can't believe that Ken's couldn't get a mention there.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you.
There's a Ken's Pizza in Chandler. There's still a
Yes.
Ken's Pizza left. Wow, did not.
There's
know
one
that.
in Prague too.
You
If I
learn
remember
something.
right.
You learn
Right
something
on the money.
on this show every week. Wow.
That's 2 games, 2 mentions for Taco Mayo for Lane. So that's impressive. Hunter Shepard, let's go to you. Bristow at Chandler.
Okay, so last season's matchup we know went to OT, and as Mark said, Bristow's going to be getting some players back. Where I think this could get interesting, Bristow is a flex bone team out of the pistol formation, so you would think they're going to grind out the game as much as they can. I also think Chandler could very well be a sleeper in 2A this year. I mean, like I said, with Casman Hill gone, that shines a lot on Alec Bryan, and I am going to take the Lions in this game.
Jacob Easorst.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting game. 3A Bristow, who cannot be ashamed of losing the game they lost to get their first loss of the season. They're one of the best teams in the state. But going to Chandler's no easy task either. I have Chandler a 10.5-point favorite, and the home field has a big part of that. However, I think this is going to be a really tight game. But I do have Chandler coming out with a 28-27 win. And look out for Caleb Alexander, Bristow's running back. I think he could be a big part of Bristow's success.
All right, 2 games down. Let's move on to our third pick'em game. The 4A Tuttle Tigers are 1-0 after a 41-7 win over Cache a week ago. The Noble Bears are looking for their first win in the 2023 season after playing 2 good teams in Piedmont and Blanchard. Noble gets Tuttle at home this Friday. Mark, can the Bears get some momentum with district play coming up?
Oh, I don't think so. The Bears have given up a bunch of points this year. They just haven't been able to play good defense the last few seasons. Tuttle is really talented. The new Chad Richardson field is fantastic. It's very nice there. So I'm curious to see what Lane's food choice is here because there's plenty of good ones around there. But I'm going to go with Tuttle. I think the Tigers win this one.
Tom Nelson.
Well, this was a track meet a year ago. Tuttle and Noble combined for over 100 points. Tuttle won 61-41. That was the first matchup between these two schools in 41 years. Right now, these teams are going opposite directions so far early on. Tuttle blew out Cache 41-7 in their only outing. Noble's given up 113 points and 2 losses to Piedmont and Blanchard. Tuttle scored 61 last year. They're used to putting up points on Noble. I think they're going to do it again.
Lane Jones.
So no disrespect for my friends in Noble. I've got some, I know people down there, but Tuttle runs away with this one. It'll be a blowout. It'll be over at halftime. But the meals won't be over when the game's over. So Kendall's before. I've been craving Kendall's. I want a cinnamon roll really bad. I could kill a chicken fried steak. And we're 3 for 3 on Taco Mayo's. So I'm stopping at Taco Mayo and getting tacos afterwards too. So, that's my joint right now.
You're really craving Taco Mayo, Lane. There's a theme going on.
I'm not being paid on the side either. I just
Adam's got to get them on. Adam's got to get them on as a major sponsor of the show. But I got to say,
Right.
their crispy beef taco with pico on it, outstanding. That's what I do.
HTO might want to partner with Taco Mayo here coming up. That's kind of what I'm hearing, Lane. Okay, Hunter Shepard, let's go to you. Tuttle at Noble.
Okay, so I agree with you guys. Last year it was a shootout, and Noble, as you guys have said, have given up a ton of points, and I think Tuttle will also run away with this. I think they will get the tempo going good, and if you're Tuttle, you want to get the ball in the hands of Brady McAdoo as much as you can. So I'm taking the Tigers in this one.
Jacob Easorst.
Yeah, Tuttle has given up 52 points and 61 points in their 2 games thus far this season, 0-2. I don't want to bring it.
Noble.
Yeah, Noble, excuse me. Noble. Sorry about that. Noble has given up big point totals both games. I don't want to get the Noble Facebook troll after us again by hating on Noble, but I got a bad feeling about this game for Noble as well, with Tuttle coming in town. I got a total 14.5 point favorite going on the road, and I see them winning this game big, 49-24.
The Noble Troll can always call into Mark's middle of the day show. Mark,
Trolls have been big this week.
I've noticed that this week. It's always going to be on the radio, it seems.
Pick'em game number 4, Rejoice Christian 1-1 with a win over Cashion and a loss against Cassia Hall last week, 39-26. The Beggs Demons 1-0 after a dominant 48-0 win over Hugo a week ago. Mark Rogers looks like to be a good matchup in Beggs on Friday.
I was thinking this about this time during the show that you would mention that last week I had a perfect 8-0 slate.
So did I.
Off with a island special of taking the Whippets over the Railroaders last week, but no respect here. No respect at all. There's a couple that are kind of scary to me this week, but this is a big revenge game for Rejoice Christian. And I think Rejoice gets some revenge. They got beat in the playoffs by Beggs last year after handling them early on in the season. So this is a classic Devils versus Christian matchup that I think Jake will probably figure into the point spread in this game somehow. But I'm going with Rejoice over Beggs. Tough to stop that Rejoice offense. They're pretty impressive.
I will start calculating our wins and losses from week to week. I've been busy.
Not if I go 4-4. I really am not interested in that. But
fair enough. I mean, HTO has had me do a lot of work recently with some various things, so had to do my day job every once in a while. Tom Nelson will go to you. Rejoice at Beggs.
I was officially 7-0 last week because I will not take credit for the O'Keene win, but I went out there thinking that could be a good ball game, and it was. Now, are you going to ask us the question you just asked us before you texted to us beforehand, Andy?
I will. Here is the question that I texted the show. What is the Beggs Demons record historically when playing a private Christian school?
They've played 38 times against Christian schools. They've won 18. They're 2 under 500. 18-20.
I'll let Mark determine what that means.
That's amazing. I don't know. I think it means that the good guys are two up in that. So,
but my pick, it's a top 10 matchup in Class 2A. Rejoice Christian goes to Beggs. Beggs blasted Hugo 48-0. Big chunk plays in both the passing and running game. Red Martell, he's already signed with KU. Ryan Grayson, great wide receiver. He's going to go to play someplace big and play as well. That's a lot of talent for a 2A school, which it seems like Beggs has almost every year. They had 522 yards last week, kept Hugo off the scoreboard, and held them to just 177 total yards after shutting out Cashion 2 weeks ago, 59-0. The Eagles stepped up in class. They lost to 3A top 10 Cassia Hall, 39-26. Rejoice trailed early in that ball game 12-3, scored back-to-back second quarter touchdowns, grabbed the lead at 16-12, but then Cassia Hall answered with back-to-back touchdowns, led 26-16 at the half, and they held off the Eagles in the second half. I really think that Beggs has too much for pretty much anybody in 2A except maybe Washington, Rejoice included, and I think the Demons are going to 2-0.
You can watch this game, by the way, on BeggsDemons.tv, also on the Squirtle app. Lane Jones, let's go to you. Rejoice at Beggs.
So I had it as a toss-up until I heard Tom break that down. I was leaning towards Rejoice. Tom, you got a couple dings over here. You didn't hear him, but I was scoring it, and I'm going with Beggs, the Beggs Demons. And if you're coming from Owasso, you're driving that drive down south. I think there's two places for me that are kind of a toss-up. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Ron's. That's when you're rolling through Glenpool. And Mamadou's. Mamadou's is one of my favorite stops rolling through Glenpool as well. And that's right on the way. And I'm not familiar with Beggs enough to know right there in town, but I do know Glenpool, and those are my two joints there in Glenpool.
Hunter Shepard.
Lane, if you just listen to Tom's voice, I mean, he might have you picking Arkansas State over OU. I mean, that's kind of mesmerizing. I'm sorry you got put into a transfer.
If you would have said Oklahoma State, that may have been more accurate. Yeah.
All right, Hunter Shepard, let's go to you. Rejoice at Beggs.
All right, so fourth meeting in 2 seasons for these two teams. We remember the story last year. They played each other twice. Beggs gets revenge on them in the first round of the playoffs as a 4 seed. So like Tom said, you've got Red Martell, the Kansas signee, and then you've got Ryan Grayson out wide. And then for Rejoice, like you got Kale Marley in at quarterback. They've got some speed out there as well. But ultimately, I do think Beggs wins this, and I am taking the Demons in this game.
Jacob Esource.
Yeah, I had when I initially drew up my lines, I had the Demons minus 666 favorite. Sorry, Ooh. Bad joke. Okay. Got that out of the way. Yeah, this will be a great game. I mean, two top 10, 2A teams, the Christians against the Demons. I mean, who could ask for a better matchup? But I think in this case, the Golden Demons of Beggs are going to be too much for Rejoice. Kudos to Rejoice for playing a tough schedule, and I think it's going to come in handy for them late in the season. But I got Beggs at 8-point favorite at home, and I agree. I think Red Martell running the ball and Turk Grayson on both sides of the ball would be a little bit too much, and Beggs gets the win 34-28.
I would be remiss as a Kansas State University Wildcat football fan if I didn't make the comment that Red Martell is probably stepping down in talent going to KU next year. But
man, I'm out on an island in a couple of these games. That's a little bit scary going against the grain.
Pick'em game number 5. Let's go to Class A, where Minko is 2-0 on the season. The Bulldogs travel to Apache to take on the Warriors on Friday. Apache 1-0 on the year after taking down Rush Springs 48-8 last week. Tom Nelson, game number 5. Start us off.
Well, Minko is ranked in the top 10 in Class A. They've beaten a couple of decent teams pretty handily in Dibble and Moreland. Brock Wardlaw's Bulldogs are experienced with 9 offensive and 8 defensive starters returning from a team that went 8-3 a year ago. Apache was 8-3 a year ago as well. They've got quite a bit back as too. A team that surprised a little bit, made it to the playoffs before losing to a really good Hooker team. They went on the road and blasted Rush Springs last week 48-8, but I think Minko's body of work so far shines brighter than Apache's. I think the Bulldogs will be 3-0 by the weekend.
Watch this game on MinkoBulldogs.com. Mark Rogers, go to you.
It was a great Rihanna reference, Tom. There's no Taco Mayo in Minko, so I think that probably Lane is going to talk about going to the Dairy Mart in Union City on the way there. I like Minko in this game. They've won 7 in a row in this meeting. So I think Minko is they're one of the better teams in Class A. Fairview is outstanding. Hominy is very good. A couple of the teams that made the semifinals a year ago. Colker got upset last week by Kansas. One of the other semifinalists. Gore's rebuilding this year some. So I think Minko might have a chance to sneak in there this year. They're pretty good. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
Lane?
Yeah, shout out to Nathan McGregor down there at Minko. He's on that staff. I like Minko in this one until they prove otherwise. Mark, good food call. I mean, there's a lot of good places you can stop running down Highway 81. That's the good thing. You can always swing over and go to Ken's, and I'm partial to their curly fries there. And you could run through Chickasha, go to Papa's, or there's lots of choices. And I would say just for me, for nostalgia, I'm probably going to swing through, make that little jaunt a little bit out of the way over the Ken's, and load up and fill myself up with ribs and curly fries.
The rib appetizer is always the best at Ken's.
An incredible model. I'm sure consultants told them this is never going to work. You're giving away too much free food, but they've kept the doors open for all those years. By the way, there is a Smokin' Joe's now in Tuttle. So there's more barbecue to be had. They're not too far from Minko's.
Hunter Shepard, go to you. Minko at Apache.
All right, so Minko was missing a few players last week, but some young players stepped up. I look for them to turn to Sebastian Valdez in the run game. When you got a back like him, you want to spread the field out, get the ball in his hands. Good dual threat QB and Reed McMurtry. And the Warriors, I think, are going to look to play ball control and get the ball in the hands of their playmakers, but I ultimately think the Bulldogs are going to walk away with this one.
Jacob Esource.
Yeah, so Minko went to Moreland last week and had their way with Moreland, 35-0. And I think that's kind of a sign of things that comes. Now, I will say Apache is a much more difficult trip to make and place to play. Just ask Bryce Overstreet. But Minko is a 14.5 point favorite in this game. And I have them winning the game 41-28. I think Apache gets a late touchdown for a little backdoor cover, but the Bulldogs roll.
All right, Tyler panel taking Minko Bulldogs. Let's go to pick'em game number 6. We mentioned Blanchard's big win over Noble last week, but now we have a tough test for the Lions as they go on the road to Piedmont to take on the 2-0 Wildcats. Piedmont also defeated Noble. That was back in week 0. Then took down El Reno 14-6, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Mark Rogers, Blanchard at Piedmont.
This is another really tough one. I think both teams are really good. Piedmont's got a little bit of an edge as far as enrollment size. They won the game last year. And Piedmont, they can win games by scoring a bunch of points. They can win games on defense. And this is a group that's really experienced, and they've grown up playing together and starting. This is a veteran team now. I think the same thing can be said about Blanchard. Carson Cooksey, really good at quarterback. So I think this is going to be one of the better non-district games of the season. I'm going to lean towards Blanchard. The over-under on this game is probably in the 70s. I think we're going to see a lot of points. I'm probably going to be in the minority on this pick again, but I'm going to take the Lions over the Wildcats.
Remember, Blanchard, a new Squirtle school, so you can watch this game on BlanchardLions.tv. Tom Nelson, we'll go to you. Blanchard at Piedmont.
Only 2 weeks into the season, but these two teams already have a common opponent. Piedmont rolled Noble on 0 week 52-26, and Blanchard hammered Noble the other night 61-18. Blanchard's week 1 win made an impression on their coach and friend of the show, Jeff Craig. He thinks his Lions are a little bit ahead of where he thought they'd be early on. We talked about Carson Cooksey. Mark just mentioned him. He was great, throwing for 350 yards and scored 4 touchdowns. But let's highlight that receiving core. Bryson Carter, Corrick Pierce, Reagan Palmer give Carson so many great targets every week. Piedmont's 2-0. They beat El Reno 13-6 and ranked in the top 10 in Class 5A. The Wildcats did it with defense. They trailed 6-0 going into the fourth quarter, scored a couple of touchdowns late. Cannon Wood sealed the deal with a big interception right late in the ball game. Piedmont's the bigger school, but Blanchard is ranked number 2 in Class 4A. Piedmont won last year 28-13, but I think that Blanchard is going to get payback in a close win. This is going to be a good one.
Always great having Coach Craig on the show. Hopefully he will not be on this year. They'll be playing for a gold ball, but always great to have Coach Craig on during the playoffs when he's available. Hunter Shepard is going to Blanchard at Piedmont.
Okay, so I think this game could go a couple different ways because, like, for example, Piedmont, another flexbone offense team, so they could look to grind out Blanchard's high-powered offense in the ground game. And, you know, Blanchard's got Carson Cooksey, who, as mentioned, threw for 350 yards, so he's a gamer out there. So I am going to give the edge to Blanchard, but I will not be surprised if this is a shootout. I will be interested to see what the over-under and line is on this one.
Lane Jones, go to you.
Well, I got to go with the hometown Piedmont Wildcats. I think Cannon Woods is going to be too much. I really think Piedmont, the trend over Jeff Hall's tenure has been they slowly get better each week. I feel like their ability to run the football is really going to open up their passing game. They may only throw 8 passes the entire game, but out of those 8 passes, they throw them, 2 of them are probably going to go for touchdowns. And I think that's going to be a really hard combination to stop. So I've got Piedmont in this one. Rolling through town, I think you got to, and I'm a barbecue snob a little bit, and Adam can attest to this. I won't talk about it unless I think it's really good, but Sharp's Barbecue in Piedmont is kind of a hidden gem out here. Their hours are a little funky, but their food is absolutely magnificent. And I'd go there and order brisket.
All right, I got to get this in, man, or I'm going to get in big trouble. My former producer long ago, Sean Witt, who we used to call him Blackhawk, he produced radio shows in Chicago for Steve Hampton and a bunch of people. He's got a daughter in the band, and he says the touchdown burger is exactly what you got to have at the game. So barbecue before the game, and sometimes you just have to eat twice. So make sure you get a touchdown burger at the Piedmont concession stand.
I've never been to a Piedmont game and not had a touchdown burger.
That's the bad thing about Lane not being there anymore. He took care of us. I mean, we do double touchdown burgers when we were doing ball games down there.
Well, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game, so I hope they have a lot of touchdown burgers there tomorrow night.
Lane, tell the people what a touchdown
I think
burger
Hunter just left to go get one.
Yeah, it's It's just a cheeseburger with a hot link on it, and they got a little condiment stand over there, and I go put pickles and mustard. You put onions on it, and the hot link is it's a hot link. It's going to light you up.
Sounds good. Hunter, did you go get a touchdown burger there just for a second?
I'm sorry, what was it again?
No worries. Jacob Dieselhorse, let's go to you. Blanchard at Piedmont.
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting games on the slate we're looking at this week. You got a 4A team, top 10, coming off a huge win over Noble. Piedmont, we expected a tough game at El Reno last week, but not necessarily a low-scoring game, and it ended up being a grinder, and they found a way to win within their passing game. That, to me, I think shows Piedmont is a team that has flexibility, and at home, under the lights in Piedmont, home field advantage for sure. Lots of seniors on that Piedmont team. I have Piedmont an 8.5-point favorite at home, and I think they win this one tight, 35-34.
Mark, if we run the table this week, we'll have done something.
Well, it's not we're not going to be both together running the table because I'm opposite of you in a couple. But I think my streak is in this week. I feel bad for mentioning it. I should have just left it alone. This week I'll be 3-5.
I'll be sure to add it up totally for next week.
I know. Yeah, I know you will. Yep.
All right, pick 'em game number 7. The Class 2A Washington Warriors are 2-0 after commanding wins over Vian and Sulphur. The Warriors host the Jones Longhorns this week. Jones 1-1 on the season with a win over Bethany and a tough loss to a good Lincoln Christian team in week 1. Mark Rogers, start with you.
I love Hunter's team issued gear from Washington. I think that's fantastic. I'm looking for some kind of stuff like that to get myself hooked up with as well. I would like to take this opportunity as well to pick Washington for the rest of the season, so we can just get this out of the way and maybe save some times on future shows, especially now that they're getting out of the non-district portion of the season. Jones is really good. Jones is impressive for scheduling this game because they ended up playing Washington in the playoffs again last year. But the Warriors are a very worthy adversary. So I like Washington in the game, and I think they win it pretty handily.
Tom Nelson.
On the show last week, we were pretty unanimous that we thought that Washington wouldn't have much trouble with Sulphur. We were correct. It was 35-10. But they have so many weapons. 2 weeks ago, it was Hudson Howard, 200 yards on the ground, 4 touchdowns. Last week, it was quarterback Major Cantrell, 9 of 10 passing, 191 yards and 3 touchdowns. Very, very efficient. Jones came up short in a shootout with 3A number 2 Lincoln Christian, lost that game 56-34. They got behind 21-6 in the first quarter, could really never make that up. Clayton Creasy, 22 of 32 for 309 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he's going to have to do that against another great team this week to stay close. Washington has won all 6 in this series, including twice last year. Last time in the semifinals, 49-14 was the final. I think it'll be a similar score on Friday night.
Hey, I neglected to mention, guys, at the beginning of the intro of this, that this is a network game of the week for Squirrel. The Washington crew will be calling this game, but it is a Squirrel game of the week. TJ Schultz, Kyle Harris, Stuart McPherson on the call, WashingtonWarriors.tv. Lane Jones, let's go to you.
Well, I think I made the mistake either last year or the year before picking against Washington, and that was a major mistake. I'm not going to do that again. Washington wins this game. And the food win in one of the few redeeming qualities of Norman, sorry, Mark, is the fact you can roll through there and Terra Mahara or Greek House. I absolutely love Greek House. I'll go out of my way to go to Greek House.
Greek House and Tar Heel are SEC ready for sure.
Is there a football team?
Hunter, we're gonna bypass Tom's question there and go to Hunter Shepard. Jones.
What about Libby's? I mean,
I was about to say you can't bring up a Washington game without going to Libby's or even Pryor's Pizza in that matter.
Very fancy.
I haven't been to Libby's.
It's good. You don't know what you're missing. It's really good.
Coach Switzer highly recommends Libby's.
Okay.
Hunter, give us your take on Jones at your Washington Warriors.
All right, so 5th meeting between the two teams within 2 seasons. So the QB matchup between Major Cantrell and I don't forgot the Jones quarterback name. My mind threw a blank. Clayton Creasy. Okay. Sorry, my mind threw a blank there, but I think that's going to be the QB matchup to watch. Washington's going to have obviously two D1 tight ends in Cooper Alexander and Nate Roberts. Max Wilson has been an underrated player for them, moved in from Norman. I think like if you're Washington, you're going to set the pace early, get the run game going. I expect Jones to kind of do the similar thing. And, well, in honor of Elite Corso, I got to take the Warriors in this one. I had to break out the jersey, which I wear to pretty much every game. I do got the Warriors in this one. And like I said, if you're rolling in the town, gotta go by Libby's or even Pryor's Pizza if you got the chance.
Mark, no jersey.
You can get a hatchet out and try to go at Lane there next to you. That's good.
Yeah.
Mark, no jersey, no Washington Warriors jersey for you?
No, but I'm not afraid to ask for the team issued gear. I've got some of it that I could have donned tonight throughout the years, but I'll save those kind of picks for later. I don't have any props with me tonight. I still got all of those Graham Colton pictures over there. I'll try to do better next week.
We'll have to get Coach Beller on the phone and see if we can get Mark some more team gear. Okay, Jacob Diesel Horse, let's go to you, Jones at Washington.
Jones, you got to give Jones credit. They always play a really tough schedule. They're not afraid to play top teams in the state, across class, before conference season starts. And I think it bodes well for them later in the season when the playoffs start and they're, playing tough games, playing tough opponents early in the year. Just makes you stronger, and they're definitely doing that, stepping up a notch by headed to Washington this weekend. Washington, so many weapons. One that hasn't been mentioned yet is the running back Howard. I could see him having a big game. I have Washington a 3-touchdown favorite, 21-point favorite over Jones, and that's saying something because Jones is a good team. But Washington's talent, home field advantage, the number one team in Class 2A rolls 41-21.
All right, guys, let's go to our final game, the Squirtle game of the week. Takes us to Class A, where the Tonkawa Bucks travel to Perry to take on the Class 2A Maroons. Tonkawa 1-0 so far in 2023 with a 46-31 win over Newkirk last week. Perry 1-1 after a win over Manford and a loss against Luther a week ago. Tom, you'll be on the call for this game with Adam. Give us a preview.
Well, I will tell you this. I'm doing my homework on this game, and the first thing I've got to say, this is a little slight at Tonkawa. They send their roster to me today. It's in class. It's broken down by class. That's my pet peeve. It drives me nuts. So now I've got to retype the entire roster in numerical order. So that I'm not going to make a pick, but that would not affect that. This series has really been competitive. Over the last 12 games, it's tied 6-6. Last year it was all Tonkawa, 59-6, though. The Maroons opened up the season with a 25-0 shutout of Manford. Then last week they lost at Luther on the road 38-6. Perry's been playing a couple of quarterbacks trying to find the right combination. In their 0-week win, they only managed 168 yards in total offense. Last week they were playing from behind all night. They put up 390, 250 through the air. What kind of success can they have against a physical Buck defense is the big question that has to be answered. Tonkawa got into a shootout with Newkirk before pulling away. They won that game 46-31. The Bucks had to come from behind two different times. Quarterback Ryan Morgan threw for 3 touchdowns, ran for 2 more. He was 10 of 18 for 225 yards through the air. It was a game of big plays for Tonkawa. Clayton Lopin had an 89-yard kickoff return, an 85-yard pass reception for a touchdown. I think that was even off a deflection as well. The key to this game is if Perry can move the football against Tonkawa like Newkirk did for most of the game last week. And if that happens, we could have a fun call. If not, it could turn into a long night.
Mark, who does Tom want to pick here?
Well, it kind of hurts me to hear this game referred to as the Maroons and Tonkawa because I think it should just be Perry and Tonkawa since Blackwell really is the only Maroons. I take you back to 1985, the last district championship for the Maroons. I get in the game as a scrub late in the contest, get stopped just short of the end zone. And I think Tonkawa took offense to that because they stopped playing Blackwell for about 25 years. Now, since then, they've not lost to Blackwell, 28-14. And only about 2 coaches in Tonkawa, Lane would know this. I think it's Coach Love and then Coach Kirtley. Coach Kirtley runs an operation kind of like Nick Saban. You're not going to get many depth charts. You're not going to get many rosters. I think, Tom, you're pretty lucky to have that. I think last year for the magazine, he sent us in a questionnaire that just said, we've got some returning starters. No names. But anyway, Tonkawa is always going to be good. They got great tradition. Tonkawa growing up, it's close enough to Blackwell where I could get some exercise and ride my bike down there and try to holler at some girls that were a little too old for Lane at the time. I don't want to tell you as good of a football program as they had. They were a little bit stronger in the female department when I was growing up in high school. And I think those girls know who we're talking about. Still looking good. So I'm going to go with Tonkawa in this game over Perry. It's really difficult for me to choose a side between two rivals that I never lost a football game against in my short but non-illustrious career.
Lane Jones.
Yeah, that's that was good. Mark, I could just listen to you go on because
the Lunch and Munch is the place that I would go down there, and that was a good neutral spot to hang out there.
Lunch
in the
Munch
Jiffy Trip.
628 was it? Yeah, Lunch and Munch 628-3747 was the number.
That's spot on. They had a variety, a menu of everything. You could get a tostada, you could get a hamburger, you could get chicken strips. One time I went out and somehow they conned me into trying to build some fence with Greg Sherman on a farm out there by Lamont, and went to the Lunch and Munch. I probably ate as much as I've ever eaten in my life, and it cost $8. What a great day! Chuck
and Betty Schultz, they had it going on for sure. It's funny you mentioned the bike ride. Brett Weiberg and I rode our bikes from Tonkawa to the Pizza Hut in Blackwell one time.
We had the Pizza Hut. That's right.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
I mean, you can make the trip. It's only about 10 miles. It wasn't bad at all.
Yep, right down Public Street. Tonkawa wins this football game. There's really not much to talk about. I mean, Tonkawa is going to win. I can't pick against my Buccaneers. I did a couple years ago. Actually, I picked them to beat Cashin, and I had to eat some crow for that. But they're not losing this game. And I'm with you. The real Maroons are in K County, so Tonkawa wins this football game. But they do have some good food choices, some really good. You can't go wrong with Comeback. You got the mariachis out there by the interstate. I've read about another place in town, and it's the name of it's going to slip my mind. I think it's Charlie B's maybe. I've seen it right there. I don't know anything about it. I've read some good reviews on it, but I'm probably going to have to be partial. If you got to get there early, but to go to Comeback. But if you get there later, run out to the interstate and hit mariachis.
Hey, I got a food choice real quick here, a Tonkawa food choice, because it's very apropos. When you spend a lot of time spending your Wednesday nights doing this show and Friday nights at a football game, that in basketball season, you're on the road 3 nights in a row and your wife is mad at you, you take her to TS Fork. Best date spot in the state of Oklahoma. If you haven't been to TS Fork, don't go alone. You'd look bad. But it's a tremendous date spot in Tonkawa. I got to get that in there.
I can hear my 1-year-old screaming downstairs, so I might have to take my wife out tomorrow night. It could be a rough evening in the Campbell household. Hunter Shepard, we'll go to you. Game of the week, Tonkawa and Perry.
Okay, so the series since 2013 is tied at 4-4. Did not play in 2018 or 19. Last season's win was probably the biggest in the last few seasons. I know one thing, you never count out a Mike Kirtley coach team, and I have Tonkawa big in this game.
Hunter Shepard taking the Bucks.
So you're saying I'll be telling stories in the second half, coming up with stuff to talk about in the second half? Adam and I will be.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I used to do play-by-play myself, but I don't remember. Well, I don't know.
We'll be talking food choices. He's saying we're talking food choices in the second half. So,
you guys are going to be in that crow's nest at Daniels Field, where it was just this is how tough Perry is. They're so tough in wrestling, and Danny Hodge he'll crush your hand with the handshake. You just have to climb up, and all they've got is some plywood with no rails on it or anything like that. You just stand up there and hold on. I hope it's not too windy.
This just came to me. I believe back in 2019, our first Squirtle game of the week was Perry Fairview and Perry. We're going back to where the first Squirtle game of the week was. And they took care of us. We were in the press box. That was a good setup. I hope we get back there again.
4 years of Squirtle games of the week. Jacob Easterhorst, finish this one up.
Yeah, so Tonkawa is obviously, got a really solid football team every year. Both sides of the ball. Dominate the line of scrimmage, slow the game down, run the ball, and then catch you sleeping and hit you with a long ball. I got them an 18.5-point favorite going into Perry. And Lane, you mentioned Brett Weiberg. I was going to give Brett a shout out. First of all, congratulating him for being named the men's coach at Southwestern. I think he's going to make that program proud and improve the quality of basketball player. Brett was one of the best players I ever guarded and had guard me. And one of the things, I mean, he was a great player. Obviously, he could knock down threes, a great point guard. But one of the things Brett taught me as a younger player than him was sportsmanship. In a game that we beat them and I hit a couple threes, he was one of the first, after the game, he was congratulating me and telling me good game. And that wasn't what I was used to in games oftentimes. So Brett, congrats on the new job. Good luck. And again, Tonkawa, just the better team. They win this game 35-13.
I'd like to congratulate Jake for not getting suspended this year while talking about a Tonkawa game. We're in good form early in the year.
Corey's really happy about that as well. Our producer editor, he's excited. Not a whole lot of changes tonight on the show. Not a lot of post editing. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the Squirtle Pick'em Show, sponsored by Maple Sticks D-Source. Special thank you to Lane Jones and Hunter Shepard for being our guests tonight. You guys did a great job, and Lane, always appreciate your food picks. So be sure to join Squirtle.tv, where you can watch all of these Squirrel Network games for free on the Squirrel Network. You can also tune in to Tom and Adam calling the Squirrel Game of the Week in Perry on Squirrel.tv and the Squirrel app. We'll be back next week with new guests and 8 more great games.